Welcome to Not Strong.
This is a podcast for men about real challenges and real growth.
Life can hit hard. What do you do when the things you've always relied upon quit working?
When the way you've always handled things just isn't enough.
When your physical, mental, and spiritual strength are put to the test?
Do you push through, hold on even tighter?
Or have you learned how to surrender? And what does that look like?
We're here to explore the human spirit with you and share what it takes to press forward through life's greatest challenges.
To tap into something bigger than ourselves and live a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life.
Join us on the Not Strong journey.
Welcome to Not Strong. My name's Kurtis Loftus.
And I'm Tim Hamby.
Empowering the human spirit. We are on episode 12.
That's right.
We're going so fast.
Yeah, and we're global now. We're on Apple Music and our Apple Podcast, I should say, and Spotify. So and soon we'll be on the rest. So yeah, we're going to get it on the rest of the places where podcasts are found.
Well, listen, I feel like as long as if there's something that we do through this podcast that helps even one man, I'm super stoked. So this will be 12 is about intuition.
Yeah.
And we also discussed bringing into it assumptions. So I think we'll talk a little bit about assumptions, but try to keep it on the intuitive, like God-driven, God-directed, intuitive heart.
Yeah, and
spirit, heart. Yeah.
What is intuition? Where does it come from? And when is it God guided, and when is it not? It can be disguised and comes in a lot of forms. So it's interesting discussion, and when you're at these crossroads in life, whether it's career or health or relationships, and you need to make a decision. You're relying on your rational mind, you're relying on your gut, you're relying on God.
Oh gosh, and all three you just named them. I think because your gut is a lot of times it's more or less experiences.
Yeah.
Right. And that we'll talk a little bit about that and how it sets up things that could be of benefit when you make as you're making a decision, because you got all these life experiences.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, are you comfortable in those? You might miss God because you are overriding God because of all these life experiences, and your heart may be going, oh, I've got all this knowledge and experience, so I'm going to go this way. But there's something deeper that you're missing.
Yeah,
and you're like,
there's a lot of gray area and a lot of places to go wrong with your assumptions. About what is God's will, and again, where are these decisions coming from, and what are they based on? So it's good to know, and we'll have some practical takeaways for how to figure those things out better. I don't think anybody will ever get it perfect, but maybe we can.
This is the most notes I've ever pulled together, by the way. I think I got 13 pages of notes, and I'm going to do my best not to rustle through them all while we're doing the conversations. But you've got a great outline. I've just got a lot of random notes over here. But I am excited, but we're going to pray first. And I'm asking that you might pull the prayer again for us.
All right, yeah. Lord, we thank you for this time together, and we just ask you for wisdom and clarity and discernment today. As we share some thoughts and insights. And Lord, we just ask you to bless everyone out there who happens to hear this, whenever you hear it. And thank you for your son, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Tim. Well, can I kick off then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Please.
That'll be good. Because my first question to resolve intuition in general was where does it come from? Where does it stem from?
Yeah.
And what you learn is it's pretty basic stuff. I'm gonna turn on my glass. Put on the glasses. But you have a subconscious mind.
Yeah.
You have your emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
You have evolutionary roots.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, and implicit learning and expertise. So we had already mentioned that. And then there's this spiritual or transpersonal views that they talk about.
Yeah, so all of that's part of intuition. It certainly can come from experience, and the more that you do things and learn things, and the better you get at things, you develop gut instincts. I think that's one thing that we know from marketing, and obviously, in our careers and stuff, you rely on a lot of data. But as a marketer, after you've done it for years and years, you're also pretty instinctive with it as well, and it comes from experience.
Well, you just said instinctive. Now you're throwing a whole other element.
That's right. It's another element that goes into it, instinct. Yeah, that's part of intuition too, where there is some instinct that's inside of us. I think evolutionary instinct.
Well, that's exactly
that part of it.
I think you're absolutely right. So the evolutionary part, but let's get into this spiritual conversation, because I'm all about the mystery and the things that aren't easy for me to explain. And it gets back to that. Okay, if it's gut level, or if it's instinctual, or if it's God, how do I explain what is going on in this rational mind that is being also directed or somehow nudged another way? Because it's always fascinated me that you have to, if you're willing, you're going to pause in the midst of some big deals, right? And go, okay, I'm conflicted. The rational mind's conflicted. There's something else going on. And I'm uncomfortable. And generally, I guess as a younger man, I probably would have responded, and gone with the rational mind in a lot of ways. But there's the other side of me that I can fully tell you I ignored the rational mind and said, I think I'm supposed to go this way, and I've got plenty of stories like that, where sometimes it works out, sometimes I think it works out. And then you go, well, did it work out because I wanted it to go that way? And that's why I feel like it worked,
Yeah, no, that is the big tricky part about intuition and understanding, when decision making, what is God's will for you, and did you listen, and did you interpret properly or not? And it's not always an easy thing. It's not always clear. And
we may not.
And there may be different outcomes. It may be positive. It may be negative, because there may be a bigger picture in play. There's a famous biblical verse, Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. That really kind of sums up, I guess, biblically what you're supposed to do. And say you try and live that way, and nobody can live that way perfectly. Although I know quite a few people who go to the Bible, go to prayer, go to God with almost every big decision. We make a lot of decisions in life, and by the way, I always bring stats, and this is interesting. Did you know that the average adult makes over 35,000 decisions a day?
I have read that.
It's just crazy.
So let's wait, 35,000.
35,000.
And that means, so you're just busy. Your mind's busy all day.
That's right. Yeah. and so if you were going to God with all those decisions, it would get tricky.
He'd be way too busy for all of us 7 billion humans.
And interesting. Another one. The subconscious mind processes information up to 200,000 times faster than our conscious reasoning. And so the subconscious mind is in control, I think, of a lot of those kinds of things. But that's why, intuition can show up as a flash of insight before you ever even know what you're thinking, right? I mean, just boom.
Tim, I'm already tired. I knew this was going to be one of those shows where we were going to keep looking at each other going, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
But, to my point, there's, some people that do go to God very faithfully with the big decisions in their life. And, I know for myself, I do. I haven't always, and I still don't with every decision. Although I probably should more than I do. But if you do, it definitely sets you up, I think, for going the right direction. And even when the outcomes don't initially seem like, yeah, I made the right decision.
Generally, we want to get things resolved. We want them to be to our benefit. And no one would probably say to God in a big decision, hey, if it doesn't help me, God, or if it doesn't help solve this, I'm fine with that. But how do you get yourself there? Right? Yeah. To listen to God, to truly settle everything, get your own selfish intentions out of it, and just say, this is for you, God. Yeah. I mean, help me understand you, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you read up on different practices in order to get yourself void of what would be the instinctual things, because that's what we're trying to resolve, right? We're going to get ourselves void of expectations, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, seriously, because all of that stuff starts to become a filter, and you're doing a prayer with an intention as opposed to a prayer. And intentionality is good. And I know we're going to have this back and forth about intentionality, but man, to hear and understand and be able to intuitively know God's voice,
and to be open to what you're hearing.
Yes,
and
it's a really tough thing.
Yeah, and one of the things that when I was in the throes of my cancer treatment and uncertain of how things were going to come out, in my prayers, I would occasionally, not always, of course, I was praying for myself, for my health, and, my benefit and my recovery. But I would recognize that things might not go the way that I want them to go, and I would often throw in, but God, your will be done. I'm grateful for the life I've lived, for the life I have right now. And, it's why I want to be here, but your will be done. And I trust you. And
it is a powerful place to get to if you're spiritually open, and what and it showed back up here, and I just got to say it, what I've learned, at least in my recovery, in the last 11 years of saying, hey, your will be done, your will be done. And doing my best to try, which I'm not at all perfect, none of us can do this, is to just listen and be patient and understand his will. But I have to make decisions. I have to move, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to, you're trying to listen. Yeah. And what comes up more often than not, and this is just, again, me, I'm not saying this happens to everyone, but I keep being presented with paradox. It's astounding how much paradox I discover in life and in this journey. Yeah. Once you pull yourself back and put yourself in a place of surrender, or where you're vulnerable. That's another way to look at it. You're just you're open, you're vulnerable, you're like, I'm listening, and you're gonna hopefully really hear and do your best to make decisions based on God principles, God directed ideas, or however he's fitting into your life experiences, right? And gosh darn it, paradoxes throw you off. Yeah. It's like, oh man. But it confirms so much, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't it seem to confirm everything about our existence? We're living in a place always that is not supposed to be comfortable for you.
Yeah, no, we're promised that it's not gonna be.
No.
Yeah, we're guaranteed that there's gonna be suffering.
We're guaranteed it.
We live in a world of sin and difficulty and pain and tough choices and
everything around you is that way.
It's not perfect anymore, so we understand that it's going to be hard.
Yep, and so I think we're trying to make it easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's what life's about. Can we just make it a little easier?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of people, and I mentioned this, before we talked, a lot of people say, well, if God's in charge and God's, all sovereign, and he, he's got this plan and it's already foretold and foreseen and he knows what I'm going to do, then what's the point of do I have any power to make decisions? And that gets into, a difficult to understand concept about free will. What is free will? And sometimes even, pastors will have a hard time explaining it, but the best explanation of it that I've ever seen is through the book Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and who explains things so well. And he's very rational minded. He's like, if A is true, then B must also be true. And if B is true, then that means, and he just explains Christianity step by step as logically as you can get. But the way he talks about free will, he said, God is sovereign, but God does allow you to make choices. It's both things. It can be both things. And the reason he said is why is because he said, God didn't make us to be robots. He loved us and he wants us to love him back. That's his will. And unless you're free, and C.S. Lewis says that freedom may actually be the only thing more important than love, because you must be free to love. You can't make someone love you. They've got to have a choice to be able to decide if they love you. So he gives everyone free will to make that decision themselves. He knows what decision you're going to make. He understands everything. He sees the plan, but he gives you that choice, and it's up to you to make that choice. So it's having a foot in both realms, and we do have free will, and we can make choices in life that affect our lives. And, so. Yeah, I just wanted to explain that.
Well done.
Because a lot of people have that question.
Yeah, it was huge. Now, I think, and it might complicate it for a few of those folks out there that are listening, going, "Oh, here we go again." This idea that that God has this kind of breadth, like for all of our challenges in humanity and problems and things we come to him with, and the way we look at this, it's just always that problem of it's just so big for us, Tim, I think, to grasp his love, to really understand his love, and to go, it's impossible for a creator, a God, to love us this much and to be this, grand in the scheme of things. You're just like, no, it's almost like it's too much to think about. It's too much
it's hard to
grapple with.
Wrap your brain around it. But
do you think it's part of our human nature to just go ahead and, just like we're talking about with intuition, just go, look, it's too much work. Too much work. I'm not going to slow myself down. I'm not going to pause on this. I'm going to go ahead and instinctually act like I know.
I think you definitely need to be intentional. It takes intention, like anything does. Everything good requires work, and if it's and I'm not I've read the New Testament from front to back, but I haven't read the Old Testament from front to back, and I haven't done all that work. I've studied parts of it, but I still would have much more to go in that realm. But yeah, it is some work. It does take doing, but like all things, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more instinctual it does become, and the more you trust it.
Well, trust is the big one too.
Yeah,
because you're gonna.
Do you trust that it's gonna work?
Right.
And the more that you see it work in your life, the more that you're open to it, the more that you see it work, and the more you go back to it because you know it works.
Well, that's a great point too. And so now, the intuitive mind, or the God-centered decisions, right? Let's say they're up against the rational mind, like the secular world, the things that we have to do in order to pay bills, to, get ourselves the next raise, or to, move through a cancer diagnosis, to anything that is kind of on us from a secular position, decision making, getting things done, right? Slow it down and now listen to the deeper inner voice. And I asked those questions, again, doing research, and it was how my simple question was, how does the rational, how can you override, or what are the practices you can use for the intuitive thought to take hold, to actually have a place when rational thinking wants to override it? Right. And it's, it says here, your rational mind is driven by, obviously, logic and linear reasoning, desire for safety, it makes sense, predictability, avoidance of perceived risk, the intuitive mind is in subconscious patterns. It's in deeper emotional truths. It's, bodily sensations, stored wisdom. It is such a different place for intuition to gain a hold in a person's decision making, because the rational mind so often is like the easier one to credit, the easier one to argue for. It's one of those things where people all the time are like looking at you and judging you, and then that's what the other thing that comes about is you're making decisions in a world where everyone gets to a lot of times witness them, see them, and make judgments on those decisions. And they can easily say, well, what is Kurtis doing that for today? That makes no sense at all. And you're going, God, I'm listening to you. I'm moving this direction. But the world is going another direction and telling me, you're foolish. We're driven by technologies now. We're driven by, we'll call it this influencer nature in us, where we just want to be, all of us are looking to be, and here I'm saying it while we do a podcast, but we're all looking for our own self-importance, and we're just moving as quick as we can, into comfort places. And how easy can we make it for ourselves when the opposite is supposed to be happening? And the Bible, has got an answer for everything. Thank you.
and it's a simple answer in terms of, understanding, when is it God, when is it the Holy Spirit versus, trusting my own gut, or what the world is telling me to do, or what my past emotions or instincts or other things are telling me to do. And the Bible's got an answer for it. It's James 1:5. Ask God for wisdom. Ask God for the wisdom to let you know when it's Him. Ask Him to help me discern your voice in your spirit in my decision making. And it's still hard, but that's one way to do it. Ask Him for help in helping you understand His will for you, and understanding the difference between His will and other things that you may be feeling emotionally, or things based on your experience, or things, the external factors.
I love that. There's a prayer we say in recovery, and it's the serenity prayer. So the serenity prayer basically goes, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
And those three elements of settling yourself and going to God and making at least a concerted effort to go, hey, I'm not going to react. I'm not going to respond to the world just as it is or to my own pride or ego just in the way I am bringing it to God. But you have to be in a place of peace.
Yeah.
Or sort of position yourself best you can in a pause and prayerful moment.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing is your actions, your next actions are going to be, do you understand the difference? Is it, am I doing something that I, in my heart and with God, understand to be directed properly? Is he giving me the courage to adjust sails, to go a direction? And if I'm not supposed to, at least have the wisdom to be able to discern and articulate. Or if nothing else, just move in a place where it's going to be good. It's right. It's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the world anymore.
And you still don't always get it right.
No,
right?
But because you did it in a place of your own certainty with God, that, hey, it's good enough. It's right. Because God is love. God is all about you. That's the biggest thing that you've got going. You are loved. And that expression of love can then be a part of your next action. So your goal, I think, is to, as you move through and journey through life, your decisions, your work, your energies are all kind of going to be built as a reflection of that love and that, and those things that you can bring to, your relationships to this world that are going to be principled around, honesty, trust, tolerance. It's all those things, fellowship. And you just go, okay, God, I'm comfortable doing this. That's the intuition. That's the discernment. That's the.
Well, so do you have any examples in your life where
but you didn't listen?
Or where you acted on what you thought was God's will, but you misunderstood it.
I think in recovery, the thing I've been doing as best I can intentionally is pulling and by the way, this started I'm 11 years in, I'm 64 now. So I'm a middle-aged man finally trying to grapple with being honest, being vulnerable, being, someone that loves himself, can love, have value for myself because I've finally said, okay, God, you have all of me. You have as much of me, I'm going to do my best to be guided by you. But up until that point, boy, I could make some decisions and then just be, and they were built on pride, or at least, and I broke my leg that way. I literally broke my leg wakeboarding one afternoon. So it's 2017, and I'm still I guess I'm still behaving like the old Kurtis. And ended up one afternoon, a buddy wanted to wakeboard, and I had too much going on, and I was kind of selfishly going, I can't, I'm too busy, and I've got this and this and this, and I had all these things lined up, and I told him, it doesn't make sense. And he, he's like, okay, we'll pass. And then later, hour and a half later, I'm like, doggone it, I deserve to go wakeboarding. I am, missing an opportunity, and I'm miserable, and I'm doing all this work for all these people, and I deserve to go wakeboarding. And I literally called him back and I said, let's go. And the whole time I'm like, this isn't right. What are you doing? And so, we get out there and we're wakeboarding. And the whole time I'm just feeling like, what am I doing here? It was just
you're blowing off work.
Well, that and I know it's all built on selfish, interests. And so we go and I make a couple passes with the wakeboarding, and I'm not even wakeboarding that well. We're about ready to go in, and then it's like we're done, and I'm like, I'll go again. And here I am, just really testing fate. And I go out there, and I am just in the worst frame of mind. I'm not even concentrating, Tim. And I do a jump, fully get myself out of position to land properly, crush my leg on the landing, and I break it. But I don't even know that. And the whole other rest of that story is just crazy. But man, broke my tibia plateau, which is a hard thing to do. Yeah. And I suffered from that. And that was me being selfish, self-serving, wanting to feel better, knowing intuitively that I wasn't even supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And I just, that's what I did. The consequences.
That's so funny, because I had a experience like that back when I was, I guess, 19, 20, something like that. And the waves were real good one summer, and I quit. I was maintaining a golf course, Macomber course, the ravines out in Middleburg. And waves were good on this Saturday, and I was just like, I got to go get them. And so I basically knew I was going to lose that job if I didn't show up at 6 a.m. to rake the pits and cut the greens. And but I didn't care, and I went surfing. And so I got out to the beach, and literally within 30 minutes, I broke my board into, and I was like, that didn't last long, and I was bummed, because I knew that I had lost a really good job, couldn't surf, was having to go back home, and when I went to go pull out of the parking lot, I pulled in front of a car and got hit. My fault.
Good day. What a good day.
Cops show up. Yeah, they write me the ticket, and but it was kind of funny. It's along those same lines where I wasn't making a good decision, and I'm sure that wasn't God's will. But yeah, I paid the price for that one.
Yeah.
And then there's other times. Another place where this makes me think is like when our business got in trouble, after many good years of real estate, marketing business, and everything just stopped at once, and whenever it was, 2007 or whatever it was, and everything just stopped, and we started having to feed that company, and we were feeding it to the tune of $30,000 every month, and Gretchen told me, my wife told me, kind of from the get-go, she suggested that I pray about it. But I felt in my gut that, she was telling me we need to close, we need to stop, preserve our money, this isn't going to work. And, my intuitive, instinctual, self was saying, no, this is going to turn, this is just a downturn, it's going to come back, things don't happen. And of course, that was a historical downturn that started in real estate, spread to the greater economy, and lasted way longer than anything else should have. But I was going on my own instincts and my own optimism and my own thinking. And when she would suggest that I pray about it, it's like, I was kind of thinking internally, I don't need to pray because I'm already getting God's telling me what to do, but he wasn't, because I wasn't going to him in prayer. And it was only after months and months and months of feeding this business my entire 401k that I'd saved up, then I started turning to God, help me understand what to do. And that's, when the light finally came on, said, no, it's time. You gotta stop. And let's find something new,
Well, and even all of that time, this is what I think is also really precious about being able to talk back and forth like this as men, having experiences that are similar. Because I've fought the same fights. I stubbornly, with passion, with the same energy that I thought was good energy, kept a business going. Yeah. And the whole time, though, and this is, I think, what I'm trying to also understand and say is I also still had something that was unsettled as I was doing it. You know, I honestly, and that's part of here I am drinking, and you could go, well, Kurtis, you were drinking while that was going on too. So your head and heart weren't probably that in the best place.
Yeah.
I guarantee this passionate man, even if I didn't have that as a way to, if I wasn't self-medicating at the time, I still would have been stubbornly pushing to see that resolved because I wanted to be successful. Yeah. You put the energy and the passion, you have the relationships, and it's a good business. You feel really good about it, but it may be ending, and you don't want it to end. And so it's like God, and you're in that foxhole, and you're doing your prayers, and and it's not happening. Yeah, and that's all of life. A lot of times, that's all of life.
Yeah, no, it is, and the thing to understand is having a good relationship with God doesn't mean that you're not going to go through these challenges. It does mean that He's going to be there with you through them. Doesn't mean that you're going to be able to avoid them or navigate every single one of them successfully, but He is going to be there with you, and He's struggled through a lot more, Jesus has than we have. He understands our suffering. It's why He came, and why He came as a man to experience suffering the way we do, so that He understood it. Well,
Tim, when I got the diagnosis, right, and I've said this before, I'll reinforce it. When I got the diagnosis, by this time, I trust I have a certain surrender, and it became for me really honestly, you own me. I am for you, God. So I'm not going to behave differently now. I've got a diagnosis. I've got this thing facing me. I've got to do this new work. Everything's going to change for me. And what am I supposed to do is my spirit going to get settled? Well, my spirit is like really restless. It's really uncertain. It's really kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm setting myself up for a lot more work than I intended to be doing this year. What is this? But anything less than being and continuing to stay open, honest, and willing in front of everyone made no sense. I needed to continue that, even in the most kind of challenging thing. It was like I can't change my spirit based on a diagnosis. And so that relationship. Here's what I'm trying to say with it: got stronger. The God thing gets more evident. The shares and the experiences with your children become more precious. Everything becomes more heightened. You're like, oh, this is what life experience is supposed to be. You literally put yourself in a place where, oh wow, this is beautiful. Thank you. That's why we've said it before. Thank you, God, in a weird way. Thank you for opening me up even more. Than I ever expected.
Yeah, you're in the battle. You're in the foxhole.
But you're not necessarily fearing it.
That's right.
Like you're just like, here we are. This is really if I didn't get this, I would never know those experiences and never understand God's love and how precious it is.
A related stat. A study in cognitive therapy and research found that people who make fear-based decisions experience more anxiety and regret. In contrast, those who practice prayer and reflection show greater peace and clarity after making decisions.
That's awesome.
Well,
what I was trying to get to with some of the research as well is from a God-centered, like, how do you do this work? To help you.
What are some of the tools?
What
are they?
And so it is trusting God, right? Yeah, I mean,
ideally, that's the first and most important thing.
And from the Bible, just as you've already said, Lord, help me to know your ways and trust your heart today.
Prayer. Scripture.
Yep. And that's, this is a good one. Practicing small ways of surrendering on a daily basis, practicing that, what that means. What does that look like to just surrender yourself to him? If you're doing that daily, which we get to do, just intentionally, we have to. What else? Why else would we not have gratitude unless we were in that place of surrender every day? So seek wise, faithful mentors. That's one.
Mentorship's huge.
Yep. And they mentioned journaling, and I don't journal enough.
I don't.
You're a writer already. You're writing for a bunch of other people.
Well, I write in my head, but I don't journal it down. But I do spend pretty fair amount of time these days in prayer and reflection.
Meditation.
Yep. And a lot of that meditation time is in gratitude.
They say serve others and stay engaged in community, which I do a lot of that. It's so important to me. I was doing community service and work like nonprofit stuff for years and years and years. And honestly, Tim, never once until this recovery program and even just being so deep into Deck the Chairs did I fully understand or appreciate this idea of serving another without expectations, without any kind of interest in my own personal well-being, coming back to me.
That definitely gets you closer to God, and I mean, it goes back to the subject you were talking about earlier, that love, and serving others puts you in that space, and
when you're out of your own head.
You're out of your own head.
When you're doing work and that work is beneficial, and you see its benefit,
your decision making starts considering other people, the people around you, and it's not all self.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that part of it. So those are some of the tools, some of the practices. There's also, so morning, short passages of scripture throughout the day, whispering a breath prayer whenever you feel unsure or stressed.
Yeah.
Do you kind of find yourself doing that?
Yeah. And
people laugh at me sometimes because they catch me with that. I intentionally breathe now. Loud. And they're like, what, Kurtis, are you okay? It's really interesting. And I don't know where it came from or why, but I know it's connected to some of this journey I'm on right now.
Yeah.
Where I'll just be like, and I'll just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And I just feel, and it's so wild the way that works. And it's come on me really almost in the last several years where I just find myself and people will look over, Kurtis, you okay? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine.
Taking a deep breath is a way to help with anxiety and of course, we talked about
our breathing exercises.
The Wim Hof breathing. I love it. And at the end of those breathing exercises, the last minute of it, they'll tell you now just meditate in silence, which is another thing on the list that I have, listening in silence, and I always love that part because now you've gone through the oxidative stress exercises, your body's getting those the serotonin and everything kicked in, and the neurotransmission, you're feeling good, and you are in that space. And for me, I'll be on my back porch and just kind of staring out into the nature, and in that minute, and I'll keep on going after the video is done, and just sit in silence, and whatever, watch the birds, and just listen to nothing, and that's about your headspace is clear when you come out of there and you feel so good and
I like
feel
that.
so open.
Yep, I like that. So I did it again, Tim. I'm so sorry.
What's that?
Podcast audio. Well, you have this beautiful outline, and of course I broke it.
Yeah,
it's okay, right?
That's fine.
All
yeah,
right.
No.
So we did have assumptions as part of like our conversation. Do you want to describe or explain what an assumption is? Do you have sort of the information on what an assumption kind of is?
Yeah.
We're just going to use it as a comparative for what is intuition versus what's an assumption. I'm curious.
So very briefly, the definition of assumptions. ego, fear, pride, past wounds, whatever seems right to a man. Sometimes we call intuition, or what we call intuition is assumption in disguise. And we talked about that a little bit. And the Bible actually has something on that, Proverbs 14:12. There's a way that seems right, but it ends in death.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a heavy lift right there.
Yeah. So we can sometimes make assumptions. We feel it may be God-derived or spirit-led intuition, but it's not always. You know?
Yeah, I think the assumptions are so much easier to make as well.
It is easy,
right,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the easy go-to.
Yeah, that's the go-to.
Yeah.
So we are designed back to patterns and back to experiences and emotional things. We want to protect ourselves. We want the best for ourselves. And we end up it's a protective mechanism as well. And you go, well, we're not going to go do that because X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, well, that's a wonderful assumption, but you just really missed this, and this, because in that experience or in that thing that was going to bypass what you believed were going to be all the hard things and all the problematic things, you missed the experiences and the more important thing, which was now you serve someone. It's like, I don't have enough time in my day. Mm-hmm. My assumption is if I avoid this thing that is helping another person, even let's put serving another human being, and you're like, oh gosh, if I do that, then that means you're just looking at your time, you're looking at your own inconveniences, and so your assumptions are that's going to not ruin the day, but certainly making the day more complicated, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. Good assumption. Mm-hmm. Probably the rational mind backs that up, right?
Yeah.
But you just missed all the goodness and all the joy and all of the, ask anyone that actually, back to serving, gets from, taking time out of their day and going and doing something of good for another human being. And they'll be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Big time.
I had this assumption this thing was going to be a waste of time. Turns out, best thing I ever did in my life. And you're just like, whoa. Isn't that cool? Isn't that interesting that you were able to avoid an assumption, take a pause, relax yourself for a moment, listen for God, go, all right, let's go do this. And by the way, if it doesn't work exactly the way, if you don't have this wonderful story to tell, because it was really hard and because, took some time, what happened to the other person though? Did you really understand what that benefit was and see that next thing that comes out of the goodness of your work or whatever that time and experience, that time with that relationship might have meant? It's so cool to get out of your own head and space and just go, look, you're a child of God. You have these opportunities. Keep yourself open for that.
That was one of the things that a pastor at the church that I go to, he used to challenge people's assumptions about going on a mission trip. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's not me. That's these other kinds of people," and I, that's not something I could ever do. That's way outside my realm. And he challenged, people in the church to get rid of that mindset, do it once, and I used to be in that mindset. It's not me, and so I, that thought was like, okay, doggone it, he got a point. I'm gonna try this, and and so I went to Haiti, and man. That experience, we helped do construction on a orphanage over there, and I remember that first time that I went over there, coming back, and I sat down at the table with Gretchen, and it chokes me up thinking about it now. She asked me to, how was it? And I just started weeping. I was just like, what I saw over there. And then that sense of gratitude and how you're living and the blessings that you have, boy, all that stuff really, it came to the forefront.
But let's be real. This is not about necessarily gratitude for all that, yes, for all that you have. But it's also, you've now connected yourself up with a part of this unseen, spoken, whatever, this place in your heart, that you didn't know kind of existed, right? So exactly. All of a sudden, you're open now to this new, and you radiate that. You actually came back, and the emotions and the sort of the essence of Tim is now wildly different because of these experiences. Now you get to carry that. And that's why, God continues to ask us and nudge us towards these places that are not necessarily comfortable, into these environments where we're just like, okay, no, that's not me. But deeper down, that's the love of God. And you're and you're changed by it, and you're changed by it,
and there's a plan, and it's connected, and it works together, and the people around you are impacted by it, and you're impacted by it, and that definitely was a big moment of growth for me.
Hey, I got one for you.
Attest to that.
Yeah, I got one for you. So your assumption on a podcast. When I came to you and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" You're like, "Probably." My gosh, I don't know, Kurtis. It's not me. It's not me getting in front of cameras and microphones, right?
Initially, yeah.
Well, it worked out.
Yeah, it has. It's been an awesome experience to do it. I do have the same spirit as you in terms of. You don't know till you go and dive in to stuff and experience new things. So that part of things helps. But it was interesting, and I've told you that despite my own, I've got an inherent shyness, but I was looking for a way. To share this story of being, of having survived, stage 4 cancer and stage 4 kidney failure, and how can I share this? And I did start praying about it. I was praying about it, and then you call up and say, "Hey, I've got something I want to do, and I'm looking for someone to do this with."
Well,
me.
It was only going to be an old man with some wisdom, Tim. I was looking around for an old man with some wisdom, something where we could go, look.
Not old, middle-aged.
Dude, we're old. All right, middle-aged. We'll be middle-aged. This white hair and these wrinkles are definitely moving towards old. I'm going to embrace it, Tim. Let's embrace it.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. But I think, have we covered just about?
What's that?
Have we covered just about everything, dude?
As a closing note, I had, discernment is what separates a wise man from a reckless one. Intuition is super powerful. It serves well in some instances, but only when it's rooted in God's will and God's presence.
Yeah. Well,
and not just our own understanding of things.
Is it James that talks about the double-minded man?
I'm not sure.
Scripturally? But I know that that's another aspect of what can happen in a life where you're sort of in two spaces, and it's like you're not confident, you're not assured, you're not willing to really, by prayer, through prayer, listening to God, make that action, do that next thing, because there's this double-mindedness. You're in the world, and you're also trying to pray. And God is saying, "Hey, the world is the world. Be with me." And that's where, if this intuitive thing is happening, and willing enough to listen to the deeper that inner self, God directed, God guided, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
And we do live in the world, and it is real. It is our reality, and it's
a lot of judgment out there, a lot of consternation. The world is,
and it's always pulling you away. I mean, it's just sort of a gravitational force, and so to expect that you can be completely free of it all the time is I don't think reality. But
you will be more at peace. I can promise you will be more at peace in that prayer meditative place and living out best you can God's will.
The more you're intentional and try to.
Absolutely. Oh, there's that breath.
It's a tricky area, to try and understand, but hope it will help. And we'll probably decision making.
Yeah, we'll probably visit this again. This you almost could say it's a two-parter, and there's people that were experts in this field. I'm sure study it and researched it and got papers, white papers, all sorts of papers written on it. Yeah, we're just a couple guys that are giving you some of our own experiences and what we've been able to ascertain after years and years of mistakes, and some things good, some things not so good. But man, tell you what, I am grateful today.
Yeah.
I am grateful today and grateful for you, Tim. And for the podcast, I think Joe Zielinski, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get him for next week.
We keep saying it. We're teasing it out.
He's been gone on vacation. I think got back on the 3rd. So I'll see if we can't get him in next week.
Big thanks to the Fruit Bowl. We put it in there just because Gretchen did this wonderful job, and I think I had more out there. I didn't want to eat on camera, but thanks for the Fruit Bowl, Gretchen, and the cinnamon roll. You ate one of those. I did. I'm trying my best.
I'm going to go get another
one. All right. We love you guys. This has been Not Strong, Empowering the Human Spirit. I'm Kurtis Loftus.
And I'm Tim Hampton.
And we will see you guys next week.